Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plell, joined in the studio by Dave Orton and Tom Park, and Sam Harley from Paddy Power is on the line as well. What a weekend it was. We had the jump season finale at Sandown, which was the highlight for everyone, I think, and Altior duly made it 19 in a row, Parky. We've got him on the screen behind us. What a horse. He's got to be considered, well, he has been considered now one of the all-time greats for quite a while.
Yeah, he is an all-time great. There's no doubt about it. To do what he's been doing is just amazing, really. That amount of races, especially, I mean, Big Bucks did it over hurdles, but to do that not only as a novice hurdler but then over fences as well is an incredible feat. Look, I've taken some stick over the last few months for saying that I think Surname would beat Altior. I think there are a few horses actually that would probably beat Altior at the moment. I don't think he was quite the Altior of old. Whether that is a step up in trip that's needed, I think he's certainly probably going to be better for a step up in trip. Look, I don't want to take anything away from the horse. We should be celebrating what he's achieved. He jumped right. He jumped markedly left again. People are talking about him as a King George horse. I'd have some serious worries about him in a King George.
He used to slick up his jumping a bit, doesn't he?
He really does. You take a horse like Surname, who at Ascot anyway was straight as a gun. He put Altior under all sorts of pressure. I'm just not convinced that. I've been a massive fan of Altior for a long time. I'm just not convinced he's as quite as good as he was. Look, there was some tweets after the race saying, how can anyone think that Surname would get anywhere near Altior? I'm thinking, maybe I watched a different race.
I agree with you.
So Royal was, had he not taken that extra stride into the second last, might have really given him something to thought about. Look, the horse finds in extra gear. It's incredible what he does, because he seems to be under the pressure in most of these 19 races that he's built up. So I don't want to beat the horse any more than I have done, but there's something in my head that's telling me that he's not quite good. And look, if he steps up in trip, we're going to see him against some really good horses. And if he wins a King George, then by God, he is an all-time great, if not the best. But he's going to have to do that now. Yeah,
he is going to have to do that. Sam, before we go over to Dave, what price have you got on Altior to win the King George?
Yeah, so we currently have him at 5-2 at the top of the market. It was interesting to see Connection sort of pondering what route they'd actually take to the King George. I mean, they sort of raised concerns of going to the Tingle Creek, because obviously that's back at 2 miles, and then going straight up to 3 for the King George. So I suppose that'll be the big news as to where they go. And
who else in the market is just below him, just because we can get an idea of who we might be facing?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. So we have Surname in at 9-2. We've Clandazobo and Lost in Translation at 8s, and we've Kenboy 10s, and then it's 12s bar.
Okay, all aboard the Lost in Translation bandwagon for me.
Not surprised. I think that actually that's a very interesting market, because you couldn't touch the first pair at all. So that means, I mean, you know, these odds compilers have to put them at the top of the market because they are the poster boys, aren't they?
Yeah.
But there's a huge stat. Every King George, we've seen it, you know, years and years in, you have to have won over that 3 miles. So Sam touched on which route are they going to go. That's going to be the key thing with both Altior and Surname. And that makes someone like Lost in Translation look a little bit juicy at 8-1, doesn't it? Because he now ticks that box. And you have to be a stayer. You just have to be a stayer. So I'm not saying that Altior isn't a stayer. Will he be best at 2 mile 4? He certainly looks like he wants to, you know, that trip now. As for being an all-time great, the world record is his now. So they will now step up, obviously. That's what they've been waiting for.
Yeah.
They wanted that, obviously. 170 we gave him as an RPR. So he's £4 off, basically, his champion chase, despite the fact that those placings remain the same. There's going to be a big hole in the champion chase division, isn't there?
This is true,
Massive.
Yeah. Maybe they'll finally exploit it with Min or something like that. More of him, of course, running at Punchestown this week. More of that a little bit later on. We'll move on then to the Bet365 Gold Cup, which was won in supreme style by Talk is Cheap, the novice. Parky, you were on Adrian Dupont anti-post, weren't you? He didn't run. Did you switch your mind later in the day?
Yeah, not onto the winner. I back Give Me a Copper, who ran
well.
Pretty well. Yeah, Talk is Cheap. Look, he's clearly very well handicapped. he's very good in novice chase form. It tied in with Lost in Translation. Thought the young master ran a stormer. He seems like he's been around forever.
I know.
He has, isn't he? I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but just to put in a context, just briefly going back to Altior.
Yeah.
The young master is only 1 year older than Altior. So Altior's going to be 9 going on 10 by the time the King George. He's 9 now, 9 going on 10 King George. Will he still... It could be that he is on the decline, but getting back, I thought the young master ran a stormer. Talk is cheap. Everything kind of fell into place. He was given a lovely ride.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I mean, I think there are bigger things on the horizon for him. I'm not sure whether a Hennessy...
National?
I mean, is he going to act as well on the soft ground? That would be my worry. Certainly Grand National, he's a big ball jumper.
For a little horse, I thought
Yeah,
he
yeah.
put a foot wrong, did he really?
I don't think he minds the ground, actually. I remember him winning over hurdles last
Newbury,
season.
it
It
was
was
a
a
marvel.
right old
That
slog,
is
wasn't
true,
it?
yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, when they were talking about him for the Ultimate, weren't they, at the start of the season? You're like, how's he going to be on the ground? So now he's proven that. He did jump well. Where that came from, I mean, I don't really know. We were sort of saying unfair, weren't we?
no way, wasn't
You thought
that
he was a
a
certainty.
surprise?
I was on Just a Sting, which was just a massive flop.
Yeah,
In
he
the
was.
end,
I've got to admit,
25s as well. So
he
I
was another one in my net. But what about this gamble on? We'll talk to Sam about this actually. Sam, the West Approach gamble. I remember looking up at the boards at the track and just thinking, what is going on here? He sent off at 5-1. God knows what price he was in the morning.
Yeah, there's serious strength on the show for him. Obviously, there was a big gamble on Talk is Cheap sort of midweek beforehand as well. I suppose it was justified. I suppose he was disappointing mid-season, but he showed to be a very well handicapped horse in that field. I thought Young Master was potentially a small bit unlucky with the early mistake, and he was just sort of always held from there. We've gone 16-1 for Talk is Cheap for the Ladbrokes Trophy in November at the start of next year. So he's pretty close to the top of the market for that.
Yeah, I'd be interested if he turned up there. It's nice to have these horses to look forward to, isn't it? Elsewhere at Sandown on Saturday, Black Corton, great to see him bounce back, and the Bryony Frost factor continues. Dave, I'll go to you first this time.
yes,
Black
that was
Corton
that weird
funny on
Kelso
horse.
day, wasn't it, where Black Corton got turned over, and a getaway trump as well, who also won the first, looking like a horse that we're going to see a bit more of. I think he had top weight in that in the first,
Yeah,
but he never looked like he was going to lose at any point. The runner-up Harambe looks a nice horse there as well. It's just one of those funny days, Sandown, isn't it? It's got that very much end of feeling, season about it, obviously, because it is the final day. But can you take the form going forward? I don't really know. Black Corton, it was great to see him do that, but the Stayers Hurdle, for example, that was a strange race as well.
You never call.
Yeah, it was a huge gamble, wasn't it? So congrats to those people that punted him. But again, he has to go right-handed, but like Call Me Lord, who won it the previous year. So they're a bit stuck, these horses, really.
Yeah, a bit specialist. Parky, thoughts on the other action at Sandown? Any eye catchers from you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Dale. The Select Hurdle was a little bit of it was full of horses that were disappointing, and the horse that hasn't really been disappointing because we've not really seen much of him this season was the one that ended up winning. Black Corton, I thought, was brilliant. Bryony Frost is just so good for racing. I know we all stress it every time she wins, but it's so engaging that you'll have people who've never watched a race before who've got Saturday TV on, and they see that it's just every single move in that race she's explaining. And wouldn't it just be great if every jockey came out and was like, look, this is what I was feeling during the race, and the emotion and the dedication as well to have to come back after injury and stuff. It really is a good stuff. She's just so good for racing.
She's
got to
up there,
admit-
isn't she, I think?
Yeah.
It will be a very interesting season for her next year. Her and Harry Cobden are going to be vying for a lot of top rides. It looks like Nichols is happy with what he's got coming in. His younger horse as well, very happy apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
Rachel Blackmore in Ireland as well, so it's happening.
Yeah, here. Bryony Frost, I've got to admit, I've never been at a course when she's ridden a big winner, I don't think. And at the weekend, there was a little girl behind me, God knows how old she was, and I just heard this little voice saying, where's Bryony Frost? Yeah. And I just think that sums it all up, doesn't it? That she's the one that people want to latch onto. Sam, any thoughts on the remainder of the action at Sandown before we move on to reviewing elsewhere?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you guys more. I think the likes of Bryony Frost and Dettori and these sort of characters bring racing to life for your everyday person tuning into the racing on the terrestrial TV. It was obviously a nice way for Paul Nicholls to top off in what's been a fantastic season for him, and you have to say it's very exciting times ahead for him with his younger horses. even you getaway trump there in the handicap hurdle, he absolutely cruised through the race. He's just tucked away in behind and one going away. He was obviously disappointing mid-season in the Betfair hurdle and the novice hurdle at Kelso. So there's clearly something amiss there. And they've sort of flagged the flying fifth at the start of next year as his target. So it'll be interesting to see whether he turns into a champion hurdle contender. We have him in the market at 33-1. I would think it's probably a bit far-fetched to think he's a champion hurdle horse, but it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, I didn't realise they mentioned the fighting fifth. That is interesting. Haydock and Leicester also stage cards. Hagerman, he won the listed 7 furlong race at Leicester. Catch that? Any thoughts on that or elsewhere?
Tricky race, wasn't it? It was one of those trappy sort of races where, 9 to 4 the field, and he's just a lovely tough horse. James Tate's having a really good time with things at the moment. He's got some decent stock. He had a very easy win at Ripon as well on handicap. They good new graduate as well. That was interesting. But again, it's one of those races that
wouldn't take it.
It's
on
just
face
a listed
value.
race, isn't it? Yeah, they're just going to get beaten.
There was a horse in that I'd like to pick out as maybe as one to follow for the season. Laugh a Minute, I thought ran quite an eye-catching race. He stepped up to 7 furlongs. I don't think he quite saw the trip out, but I think he'll come on for the run anyway. He travelled really nicely, found a little bit of trouble, but was quick enough to get out of it. He just didn't quite see it home. I think maybe he's a drop back to 6. You might be seeing a bit more of him this year.
Yeah, okay. We've got plenty to cover with looking at Punchestown and then the midweek stuff. So just a quick word on Longchamp yesterday before we move on. Wild Geist, he produced a shock. I don't know if you necessarily call it a shock, though. He's a very good horse, isn't he, beating Gayeth?
I think we were just all getting a bit carried away with how good maybe Gayeth could possibly be. In hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, but he went up 1-2 in a race that probably shouldn't have been anywhere near that price. But look, I thought he was a really exciting horse going forward this season. It's a little bit disappointing to see him getting beat. But look,
step up in trip. What would you do with him now?
Yeah, he looks like a real galloper, doesn't he? So I think probably a step up in trip, maybe something like the Hardwick at Ascot, if that's the route they'd go. It's just disappointing. Walgee's a very, very good horse, but as we know, he's just not the top class. Yeah. He's not going to really give Enable a race. I wouldn't have thought.
I think that is fair. Although it's
How did you rate it?
Well, we saw this over Crystal Ocean, didn't we? They're both 5-year-olds now. They're both trained by masters. If they get these older horses in their care, they can train them that bit harder. That's what Farber said. Just say Crystal Ocean on Friday. We should mention him.
Dow's got his horses a lot more forward this year, hasn't he?
Good to see. Yeah, he had something at Haydock called Ledham that ran in the mile handicap there. Needed the run. They like this horse a lot. He's well handicapped. I think he'll go for the Silver Bowl back there, back on some slightly better ground. Could be a Royal Hunt Cup runner. Look out for him. Okay,
interesting. Quickly before we take a break, Sam, what price Wildgeist for the Arc? Hopefully you've got it in front of you.
Just 1 second, I have it here. We have Wildgeist in at 16-1 for the Arc. Just a couple from me from Navan, which they obviously had a couple of trials there. Pink Dogwood obviously won the listed race there. We've put her in at 9-2 at the top of the Oaks market. I think that's crazy price, to be honest. Just even looking at the times between that and the other mile and 2 handicap race on the day, the other mile and 2 race is actually 2.5 seconds quicker, won by a horse called Blenheim Place, who was rated 76. That would be a major negative for me, although the only thing is it looks to be a weak enough division. When you look at horses like Sea of Faith, who obviously ran an eye-catching race at Sandown last Friday, but she's currently sitting at second favourite, 14-1. Wow. which is absolutely crazy. Thinking that she could go from being third in a maiden to second favourites in the Oaks is kind of bonkers. Yeah. And then just one eye catcher was a horse of Tony Martin's in the mile and 5 handicap called New Cross. He ran in the Cesarewitch and the November handicap at the end of last year. Finished 7th in both. Yesterday was a seasonal reappearance. Came from the back. Sort of scrubbed along and finished 3rd. I expect him to come on a lot, and I'd say one of those big handicaps in the near future he'd be one to keep an eye out on.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, Sam. A quick roundup of the action at Navan there from Sam. We'll take a quick break now before looking at Punchestown.
What's my horse's handicap? The fact that you're backing him? Everyone loves a newbie. That's why Paddy Power Games are giving all new customers 60 free spins on daily jackpot games. New Paddy Power Games customers only. One per customer. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. The Punchestown Festival gets underway tomorrow. We're going to do a more in-depth postcast looking through each race day by day, but just a quick summarisation now. Day one, the highlights probably the Boyle Sports Champion Chase, seeing Min face Undersow. Plenty of other good racing on the card, 2 Grade 1s as well as that. Parky, what are you most looking forward to?
Tomorrow, very much looking forward to Min and Undersow going at it. This is going to be a great field in the race as well. This is going to be like the Nunthorpe run over fences.
Yeah, exactly.
Going at 100 mile an hour.
On paper, it looks like a massive burn-up.
Yeah, massively. Because I can't imagine they're going to switch tactics with Min now after he was so impressive from the front at Aintree. Undersow doesn't know any other way to race. I mean, they tried it in the Ryanair and it kind of it didn't really work, them holding him up.
I believe he's only been seen twice this season.
Yeah.
In the Tingle Creek and then Ryanair, which was a bit of a write-off.
That is mad, really. But I mean, he is still the most underrated horse in. Yeah. He loves this kind of race where there's something.
In the race last year.
Yeah, I mean, Min looks. He'd be a certainty on it, that Aintree run, but like I never rule Undersow out. And look, we don't know how good Great Field is if he stands up.
Which has been the issue.
Yeah, which is a major issue. It's probably not a race that I'd be having a bet in. I'll probably be sitting this one out on the basis that I just think it's going to be a hell of a race to watch.
Yeah, Dave, we've also got Classical Dreaming, Champagne Platinum reappearing in that same race, and then the Novice Chase, which I think that's probably one I'm really excited about as well with Applutard. I know you like him. What are you looking forward to most?
Mullins Benefit Week coming up, isn't it? It's like when a Weld goes up to Galway and just used to farm it. It was 18 winners he had last year, something like that. And the interesting thing about this week, I guess, for punters and race fans really, is that with it being something of a slow winter in Ireland with the ground, these horses are, some of them, still slightly fresher than most at this time of year. Yeah. Classical Dream being the classic case. Ruby Walsh is really sweet on him. I suppose he'd probably win when he's going to be about 8 to 11. Champagne Platinum for Nicky Henderson. The last British horse to win this race was Midnight Legend in 1997. Wow. Which is pretty insane, isn't it? Yeah. It shows you how hard it is to be done. I like the horse, but he's got a lot on his plate. Okay,
Sam, have you had any bets tomorrow?
No bets for tomorrow. I'm eyeing up one in the Novice Chase in Get a Bird. I just think, as Dave pointed out there, fresh horses could play into the hands of Willie Mullins this year. With not being able to run horses on the fast ground over the winter. Get a Bird, prime example of that. He never really sort of got the chance to prepare for Cheltenham at all. He's in an 8-runner race in a 13-2. I think they're slightly bigger out there at around 7-1. He'll be a massive each-way play. Especially with Delta working Applutard, potentially being tired coming back from Cheltenham. And I think it's a big step up in grade for Applutard. Clearly a very well handicapped horse at Cheltenham, but it's a different gravy stepping up into this grader race.
It is. I'm hopeful. I think I might be able to beat Delta Work, but we'll have to see. Getting £5. Wednesday is the feature. It's the Coral Punchestown Gold Cup. What a race. We've got the Gold Cup winner Album Photo, the Aintree winner Kenboy, and last year's winner Bells Hill, all racing against each other. Where's your money lie, Parky?
I'm going to give Bells Hill one more chance.
Sneaky.
I think I've just always been a big fan of Bells Hill. He's just a real monster of a horse that when he gets it right, I think when he gets his jumping right, he's just unstoppable. He just pops his fences sometimes. Look, Kenboy was absolutely brilliant at Aintree. I've not been really taken by a performance quite as much as Kenboy. Album Photos, it was a masterclass from Walsh. Album Photos, a Gold Cup winner, so you can't really knock him. I just got a funny feeling that Bells Hill comes in a little fresher. He didn't have a hard race in the Gold Cup. The fact that Ruby chose to ride Bells Hill in the Gold Cup, I mean, obviously the other two have gone on to do bigger things, but they clearly think a lot of this horse. I think the race will be there to suit, and I could maybe see Bells Hill from Kenboy and Album Photo in third. That would be my order, I think.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe you get a bit of a price on Bells Hill, with the other two being the ones who have really attracted this duel. Dave, it's good to have 3 horses that are still, peaking, it seems, and really young and bringing the sport forward to look ahead to next year. Yeah,
Monolly's in there as well, isn't he? He's quite interesting to whether he quite get home at this level over the 3 miles, not sure. The Storyteller, he's got a lot of fans. I definitely read in there for Brian Ellison, that's our British representation. Kenboy, he keeps surprising me and a lot of other people. He's unbeaten when he stands up, of course, this season. There's not a lot between him and Album Photo. Bells Hill going right-handed, I think is another key sort of part of that race. It's a really tricky race to call. Ken Boyd certainly got on the bias. Team Mullins worked out at Aintree that you had to be on the pace, on the chase course, and he was up against horses that looked like they probably might have had a bit. He was the freshest one, wasn't he? I'm not saying that I don't believe it, but I would have Album Photo over him. I think he's got a score to settle, of course, at Punchestown after what happened this last year. Pulled Townend on as well.
Yeah, I know. Album Photo, Gold Cup winner. We've got to give him the credit, haven't we? Sam, thoughts on that big clash and anything else on Wednesday?
Yeah, so I was at a preview night there last Friday, which Ruby Walsh was talking at, and he made an interesting point about Bells Hill. He said when he rode him in the Gold Cup that he was happy to jump with that landing. He felt like he was sore coming down, and he put it down to potentially getting jarred on the good ground at in Leopardstown. So he said he had a head scratcher as to which to pick between him and Ken Boy, so he was still sort of sitting on the fence whether he might actually still ride Bells Hill. So I thought that was interesting. Great race. You've the Bowl winner, the Irish Gold Cup, and the English Gold Cup winners there. Could be one of the races of the year.
Yeah, it could be. It certainly was a couple of years ago when Sizing John and Coney Gree and loads of other horses were engaged. Yeah. Thursday, the Champion Stayers is run. Apple's Jade could turn up there, and that Aintree race was one of the races of the season for me, with If the Cap Fits and Roxana. I don't know who we're going to see against her yet, but that looks a cracker, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks a cracker. That Aintree race wasn't quite the race of the season for me because I did my brains. But moving on, I'd backed Apple's Jade. I thought I'd put it down to Cheltenham being a flop. I'm starting to think now she's had a pretty hard season. She is my favourite horse in training. There's the mares race that she could maybe go for as well. I actually think the 2.5 mile suits her much better than 3. But I think there's a bet in this race, and at a big price, I think Vision de Flor at 25 to 1.
Okay.
You think he beat If the Cap Fits at Fontwell earlier in the season. He was a little bit disappointing at Cheltenham in the Coral Cup, but he was off a big weight that day, and he actually went through the race quite well. He didn't quite finish it off. I think his 2 runs at Punchestown, he won the bumper there a couple of years ago. He was second last year in a Grade 1. I just think 25 to 1 in a race that probably, if Apple's Jade could go for the mares, that probably leaves Bopham as the favourite. He probably should be favourite, but he's not done a lot of winning.
Yeah.
25 to 1, I just think he's a right bet at that price.
Dave, we've got that race, but we also have the novice chase as well with Defi, Desoy, and Duc de Genevra's and Chacun Poussoir all turning up there.
I'm inclined to think that the 2 mile 4 division was stronger than the Arkle division so far. Worried about the Champion Chase division next year again. Duke was a really good winner of the Arkle, obviously, but it was an extremely soft Arkle the way it turned out. Kalashnikov exiting early, etc. And those horses that went by the wayside. Bopham, who you mentioned there, he was a big eye catcher at Cheltenham, and you're right, he doesn't win as often as he should.
No.
But I thought of the main players, because we don't know who's going to turn up in the Champion Hurdle, of course, which mares are going to go where. Lorena, of course, is in there, and Benny Adedieu, who won at the meeting last year. But Bopham, I thought, around about the 5 to 1 mark, was pretty solid if they ride him a bit closer this time. Presenting Percy's got form with him as well.
Yeah, okay. Sam, do you know anything about, I mentioned him briefly there, but this Chacun Poussoir, he's been a big talking horse in the last couple of days.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't actually heard much about him at all. I saw he's a big mover in the market yesterday. I suppose it's all about what's going to turn up there. As the guys said, I'd say the Arco was a very poor renewal. Be interesting to see if Defi Desoy turns up. I think he's probably been one of the novices of the year. He'd be the one for me in there. And yeah, just going back to that Stayers hurdle, Apple's Jade, you'd have to be disappointed with her at Cheltenham. I'd probably be willing to take her on. The one I thought was interesting, who's around 14 to 1 in the market, is Picardi's. I know he hasn't stayed up on his feet much in the last couple of seasons, but I thought he ran a good race in the Stayers this year. He could be an interesting play if a couple at the top were to come out.
Okay, Friday we've got the Champion Hurdle. We mentioned we don't know who's going to turn up for that, but Bouvardere, hopefully he can make his first Irish start, a winning one. But things haven't gone straightforward for him this season. And I don't know, maybe Sam Crow could run. Is he going to run? Who's going to run? Who's going to win it?
I'd be very keen on Sharjah if Sharjah turns up, if the ground's right for him. Just think he's an absolute machine on good ground. I think
Brought down in the champion hurdle.
he was brought down in the champion hurdle. The ground probably wouldn't have been right for him that day. He was a big drifter on the day anyway. But I think on good ground, I think he's such a talented horse, and I certainly won't be taking him on. I'll be backing him pretty heavily as well. I even thought about going to Punchestown on Friday just to go and watch him run. But
Really?
I did, yeah. But
Confidence
yeah, I hit
there.
that on the head because I don't think the missus was very happy. But yeah, I guess Bouvardier's a bit vulnerable now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Very hard
Sunday,
race at
Aintree
Aintree.
could be run against him here again.
Tough race, didn't he?
I think Sharjah's a certainty if he turns up in good ground.
I like that very much. But it makes sense, Dave.
It's certainly on the ground, yeah. It's just become, unfortunately, a tricky division again.
Yeah.
And this will answer maybe a few questions going forward. Of course, champion hurdle has been put away, hasn't he? Of course. So Bouvardier's got to bounce back. I couldn't touch him at the sort of prices at the moment, no, unfortunately.
Okay. And what of the novice race? You've got City Island. His form's working out really well in the Ballymore, taking on Reserve Tank, the Aintree winner.
Yeah, he's a big player, I think. You've got to think about this Tizard stable, haven't you? So let's face it. Another one for the Tizards. And again, he keeps surprising me, Reserve Tank, a little bit. Not really sure where it's all coming from, but...
Not necessarily sure that was a really strong race.
That Ballymore was a strong race, wasn't it?
Ballymore was, yeah.
Is a proper tool, so we know that now.
The
And
Aintree
City
one I'm not
Island
sure about.
has just come lovely under the radar. Martin Brassel, old school training. I'd love to see him win again. In the staying race, the 5:30 on Thursday, Alaho is representing the Albert Bartlett form. I think he'll reverse it with Manila.
Is he going to run in that as opposed to the novice?
I hope he does run in that. Okay. Willie Mullins has got a great record in that, and I think that they were disappointed the rain came on the Friday, weren't they, for him? So.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll go back to Sam now. Sam, any thoughts on the champion hurdle? Can you see there being a market mover? Sharjah, do you think money's going to come for him after Parky gets on?
I actually think Super Sunday is probably the one in there. I think the price differential between himself and Bouvardier is too big after their meeting at Aintree. I know that was
such an underrated horse, isn't he?
I know that was over 2 miles 4, but yeah, there's probably his only bad performance this year was at Cheltenham in the Stairs. Over the last 2 years, probably. I mean, he's had a string of seconds, but I think he's in around at 5-1 mark. I think that's a big bet each way. We're actually due to get quite a lot of rain here tonight and all through tomorrow. So by the time this race comes around, it could be a bit of soft ground. And another one that might suit is in the Stairs Novice. Is carefully selected in the same race as the guys we're mentioning there for Allaho. I see Ruby's gone with Allaho, but if the rain was to come, Paul Townend on carefully selected could be the one to beat there.
Okay, interesting there. Saturday, have we got any fancies? It would be fascinating if Fusil Raffles turns up, the impressive Adonis winner, and Benny DeJeur in the mares. She's going to try and sort of make up for that horrible Cheltenham fall, as happened with Annie Power. Parky, any thoughts?
I'd love it if all of the three big mares turned up for that race. The mares race where the big mares turn up, I think it would be a real belter of a race. I think Benny DeJeur probably win. I hope all three turn up because I think Benny DeJeur probably
Which three? So Lorena, Benny
Lorena,
DeJeur,
Applesjade and Benny DeJeur. I think that would just be one hell of a race. And yeah, look, Roxana boosted. Benny DeJeur was going to win that by a country mile at Cheltenham, and Roxana ran really well at Aintree. Form's rock solid. I think she's a bit of a tool of a horse, to be fair. So she'll be winning wherever she runs anyway.
Sam.
Yeah, just one for me. And there's a 2 mile 4 furlong handicap on Saturday. A horse called Mr. Adjudicator, trained by Willie Mullins. He was 8th in the county hurdle at Cheltenham. Ran a very eye-catching race that day. He's since turned up to Ferryhouse, where I think he jumped one fence and he was sort of refusing to go at all for Ruby. It's since been reported that it was actually a piece of the tack that was causing him pain, and that's why he wasn't to do with any attitude issues. So I think on Saturday in the 2 mile 4 handicap, yeah, Mr. Adjudicator.
Okay, Jay.
Yes, I just think that it's unlikely that all the three mares will turn up.
Yeah, they've got
Benny
so many
DeJeur,
options.
you hope they do, because I'm with Parky. I think that Benny DeJeur would win whatever. It'd be nice to get some sort of price about her again, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So she's a tool, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll take a quick break now, but then we'll be back to talk midweek racing and our naps.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet the next week. T&Cs apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to this final instalment of the Monday Postcast. Time to get the lads' midweek naps now. We've got good action at Ascot on Wednesday, aside from Punchestown with it's their Royal Ascot Trials Day, they're dubbing it as now, with the Sagara, the Pavilion and the Paradise Stakes. Hopefully I'm going to make it to that one. Any thoughts on naps? Where are they coming from, Parky?
Mine's coming from Punchestown. Actually, it's a horse that we touched upon earlier, Chacun Poursoir. Just think that this is a bit of a weak division. I think that he looked pretty special last time. The word from the vibes in the yard are very good. He's 50 to 1 for the champion chase at the moment. That price will not be there if he wins on Wednesday. I think that on Thursday. Sorry, I think he'll win 640 Punchestown.
Nice, I like that very much. Dave?
Ascot is a real treat on Wednesday. Sagaro that you mentioned there, it's often a race that has a serious bearing on the Gold Cup itself. Estimate, of course, Mizzou. Horses usually run well in place. It's a slightly substandard edition, I think, but DXB will be very interesting for Mark Johnson. He's not won it since Double Trigger back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But he's always looked like a stayer to me. If there's a little bit of rain, it's in the area, he'll go well, I think.
I like to look at Danehill Kodiak in that. I think he could do all right.
Underrated horse, and maybe early season as well. But there's a horse called Queen Power in the 250 for Sir Michael Stout. It's a bit of a buzz horse, isn't it? She could have gone for the 1,000, but they've scrapped that project and they're looking at the Coronation Stakes. Apparently she's burning up the gallops.
Okay, that gives me a lot of confidence. And Sam, finally.
Yeah, and just one for the way home tonight. The 820 in Nace, a horse called Hazran from McAlford. I've mentioned him on the show before. He was third in the maiden at the back end last year at Nace as well. And I think he's a certainty in around the 2 to 1 mark.
Fabulous, thank you very much. Guineas chat now then. God, what a week we're in store for. We are spoiled, aren't we? We really are. Let's start off with the 2,000 Guineas. There have been absentees left, right and centre. It's at 3:35 on Saturday. It's Group 1, Aidan O'Brien. Can he win another Guineas with either 10 Sovereigns or Magna Grecia? Dave, I'll go to you first.
A case of who's going to turn up still, isn't it, I think? You know, Persian King, he's running, now he's not running. Calix turns up at Ascot. There's a treat for you, you know, if you're heading there. All the forms pointing towards Magna Grecia. It's just everything, every arrow is going for him. He's the stayer. I think Ryan Moore will probably ride him. 10 Sovereigns is obviously doing something special at Ballydoyle. If you look at his pedigree, 10 Sovereigns, he wants to be running over a mile. But we know that Middle Park runners are often sprinters. History, you know, tells us that. And I can't have him getting home in this. I think Magna Grecia is the right favourite. Would I be surprised if he's turned over? No, but he by default, no, too darn hot, of course, in this race, I think. But you know, he's the one.
Okay, Sam, just run us through the prices.
Yeah, so we've Magna Grecia at top 10 to 3. We've 10 Sovereigns 5. We've Scardu 11 to 2. Mad Moon 13 to 2. Advertise 8 to 1. Royal Marine 9 to 1. And the supplemented Al Hilali in there at 12s. Yeah,
we've got to mention Al Hilali supplemented for Godolphin. Sam, I know you're a big Mad Moon fan with your connection to the yard. Give us an update. Are you still keen on him?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I think at the price he is at the moment, I probably wouldn't back him. I think I'd leave him till the morning of the race. I can see him drifting out a small bit with the money coming in for the O'Briens at the front of the market. Everyone from the yard was delighted with the reappearance. Everything was against him on the day with the 7 furlong, soft ground and £3 penalty to a match-fit rival. He was only beaten a half a length. Had he won half a length, people would have been raving about him, and he probably would have justified a price of around 5 to 1. I think on the morning of the race, around the 8 to 1 mark, he's a great each way play. Can't see him out of the first 3.
Yeah, he's one of the horse. We know he's going to stay the trip, and he has that touch of class about him, Parky.
I actually backed Mad Moon last week after reading Tom Siegel's column at 16 to 1. So look, there's nothing to dislike about that now. I think it was a pretty good reappearance run, beaten by, as Sam pointed out, beaten by a race fit rival. There's been nothing really to. It's just been a disappointing Guineas, really. You've got 2 darn hot out, Calix out. I mean,
don't talk about Persian King.
I think Persian King's another as well. I mean, he'd probably be pretty short price favourite now. Magna Grecia would probably be the one that I think is the most likely winner. I'd probably be looking at, if he was to win the Guineas, he'd probably be a short price favourite for the Derby. So I think he's about 33, 40.
Back him for the Derby
40, well, he's 40 to 1 for the double.
Invincible spirit.
You love doing those.
Well, I just think that
all over the Saxon Warrior one.
If a horse is going to run in the Guineas that's a potential Derby horse, then there's potential value there because, like Saxon Murray last year, we were on a 33-1 shot at 8-13. I know it didn't work out. And the same applies to Mad Moon. I think he's 66. He was the other day anyway before his price went in. He was 66-1 for the double. They're the kind of markets that I'd be looking at the moment. I think Magna Grecia and Mad Moon, I think they're probably the best.
Okay, just you.
I'd managed to erase that double from my mind, thanks to him. So it was a horrible thing, wasn't it? Yeah, he's by Invincible Spirit. Whether he get home, I think he looks like a miler to me. I might be wrong. Maybe 10 furlongs.
Okay,
well, he's still in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought he was the one to take from the Craven. I thought he
strong.
travelled very nicely, produced the best turn of foot of the field. Didn't quite get there, but I think he was kind of racing on the wrong bit of the track there.
Royal Marine was also the eye catcher.
Royal Marine tanked through at the end.
Race,
whether he wants a bit of juice underfoot, really. So
yeah,
probably.
I know me and you are both on the sort of Great Scott each way bandwagon. I think that's
been a bit of a theory there, and he ran all right, didn't he? The Green and Winner's not here now, so he could go well at a price.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to the fillies equivalent then, which is on Sunday, the 1,000 guineas. Kabbalah, she's been popular for this since her Nell Gwyn victory. Sam, what price is she now?
So we've Cabal at the top of the market, 11-4. We've Fairyland and Skitter Scatter, both in at 6s. We've Just Wonderful 7-1, Iridessa 8s, Dandu 8s, and Lady Kaya 10s.
Joseph O'Brien's story coming out that he's very happy with Iridessa, the fillies mile winner. I'm in the Kabbalah camp here. I think I'm a bit gutted I didn't get on before she won the Nell Gwyn. I know you're keen on her as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I think Skybait went 12-1 straight after that race and managed to get on a little bit on. I thought it was very impressive. Thought a lot went wrong in the race and she still won. I think she's short now though.
Yeah.
She was seriously well gambled, wasn't she?
She was really well gambled, yeah.
I backed to that day at quite a nice price. I just think it's a one-horse race now. I think it's hers to lose, definitely.
I'm in that camp as well.
Just Wonderful was very, very impressive, wasn't she? Was it the Rockfell she won? I'd be very...
Dandu's boosted that form, hasn't she?
Yeah, and I just think that was a high-class performance. I think she wasn't great at the Breeders' Cup, but take that. Don't knock her with that piece of form because she was very good. Aidan O'Brien's a genius with these fillies. It would be foolish to rule any of his.
Second and third trees can win, of course.
Yeah,
Winter, of course, was
it's
not.
hard when we've not seen a lot of them, isn't it?
I think probably, the favourites.
Peter Scatter and Horse.
Yeah, I think might be sort of stating the obvious here, but it does come from Ireland, the biggest threat. I think as much as I like her, that Dandu, whether she's quite good enough to see off Kabbalah, I don't know. I was just massively impressed with Kabbalah, and Roger Varian looks like he's going to get his deserved big day here.
Yeah, okay. And Sam, over to you finally for the last word on the 1,000 guineas.
Yeah, I think Kabbalah looks the most likely winner, but I think you'd want your head checked if you're backing anything in this market, especially with all of Aidan's that won't have had runs. What an amazing story it would be if Lady Kaya could win for Sheila Lavery. I don't think she's actually had a runner in the UK before, let alone going into a Group 1. If you could have her win the 1,000 and Kevin to win the 2,000, it'd be some story.
It would indeed. That's it for today. Thanks for joining us. As always, please rate, review and subscribe wherever you're listening to us from. Make sure to keep your ears and eyes peeled for what we're releasing from all our different platforms this week with Punchestown on, and we'll see you on Friday. Best of luck with your bets before then.
Paddy Power Games has over 250 of your favourites to play online, and we're going to attempt to name them all in this 10-second ad before the T's and C's kick in. There's Blackjack, 18+, begambleaware.org.